We think about, money. Some people, they just get so tense. It's very serious, and I don't have enough, and how can I do that? And then there's other people who go, well, there's plenty. It's just the two extremes, or anywhere in between, up and down, and life happens. And but let's take a spiritual tact on that. And this month we're contemplating living everyday wonder with our finances, right? So each of us has followed that, our own financial path, whatever it is. And but where do we get those ideas about prosperity and abundance, right? So our parents and teachers and our life experiences, really, should we, are we taught, should we go for it and accumulate as much wealth as possible? Should we get our share before anyone else does? Because we're going to win, right? It's I win, you lose, or maybe wealth is a source of evil. It should be avoided. There should be poverty and chastity, and is poverty more spiritual than abundance? I don't think so. It's all God, and it's all good, and so we get to choose what our experience is of that abundant flow. We can take a little cup, little thimbleful, or we can take a nice size bowl, or we can take a barrel, or we can realize perhaps that we are swimming in the ocean, and it's everywhere. It's infinite, which is the truth of who we are, right? And when we come with the spiritual take on this, it's like all aspects of life, our beliefs and our experiences shift when we go back to the beginning of all existence, the infinite source of life, including our life and everything and everyone in our lives, including this center, right? So this week, we contemplate that infinite source and the abundant nature of the universe, right? Now, in Exodus is one of the first stories that we have about abundance. And so, the world seems to tell us that we judge our wealth by the possessions that we've accumulated, that we've lost, or that we've never had. But in Exodus, we have some guidance on what the source of wealth is. So the Israelites had been roaming in the desert for several years after they'd left Egypt. And Moses' brother was named Aaron. So he was the first high priest of the Israelites. And so God had given Moses detailed information about how to worship God with acacia wood and certain sizes of things, how to build an altar, and the rituals of atonement. And there's a lot of those chapters in Exodus are about how they were supposed to worship. And Moses instructed Aaron in the rituals, and he was carrying them out as the high priest. Well, Moses went up into the mountain and had this conversation with God, and the tablets with the 10 Commandments were being prepared, but he was there for a long time, and so the people were saying, we don't know that he's ever going to come back. He's up in the mountains. Some animal could have gotten him. Maybe he's not coming back ever. But we want to worship, and so Aaron, you're the high priest. Go make us a god. And so Aaron said, well, okay. So he asked them to bring all of their gold earrings, and I guess men, women, children, everybody wore gold earrings back then. So they all brought in their earrings, and he melted them all down and made this golden calf. And so when Moses came down the mountain, everybody was reveling and celebrating in front of this golden calf, dancing around and having orgies, whatever they were doing. But it was not exactly what you would call worship. But they were worshiping their symbol of wealth. All right, they had all this money, and there it was, and life is good. Well, Moses didn't take to this too well, and so he was so angry that he just threw the tablets on the ground. They were obliterated. He had to get another set later, and he, was really angry with the people. And he said, "You're worshiping this golden calf. It's an object. It's an effect. This is idolatry. You're worshiping an idol. You're not worshiping God. God is this consciousness, the creator. We can't see God. We can see the effect, but we don't see God that way. The true source of all our abundance is the God within us and around us. The forms, they come and go. But the material world is always changing. Spirit goes on forever. And that's where we need to stay our attention. This is why Jesus told us in Matthew 6:33, "Your Father in heaven knows that all these things are also necessary for you. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you." Right? Now, the infinite divine, our source, asks us to look to the power and presence of God within us to understand our true nature. This is where the righteousness of God comes in. Jesus told his followers that if they align themselves with the qualities of God, they would prosper. And that's what righteousness means, is when you align yourself with what is righteous and true. Right? So because the infinite abundance is the nature of the divine, infinite abundance is also the nature of the divine creation, including us. We are made of divine stuff. That's pretty cool. Right? And so we align our thinking with the divine source, and we clear the path for the divine to manifest itself in us, through us, and as us. We are the vehicle for the divine to manifest. All right? Now we can choose to do our own thing, and whatever the risks that, plus or minus, but when we're aligned with God, we are part of that infinite flow that's being created in the world. So now this month, coming back to our theme of living everyday wonder finances, we're going to start at the beginning with this is the first week. We've got 5 weeks in October, so we're going through. But this week we're going to focus on beginning at the beginning. God is our infinite source, the infinite invisible, as Joel Goldsmith likes to call it. So the future weeks we'll be considering the next steps, but today we're just going to stay with God, the one. Right? It's the most important step of treatment, of prayer, is to know that God is all there is. And so, we stop looking outside of ourselves to that physical world, just like the Israelites that were worshiping the golden calf. We may have difficulty actually even seeing our abundance when we look outside ourselves for the next deal, the next job, hoping for the next opportunity, our sugar daddy that's going to come take care of us or whatever it is. And in some ways it's like we're a fish that's swimming around in the ocean looking for the water, And the fish is already in the middle of the water. In fact, it's, what percentage of us is, it's over 90% of us is water, some amazing percentage. So it's water, it's in the water, and it's already in the ocean. Our source is the divine, the infinite source of ideas and creative energy that's expressing itself through us. And to transform our financial life experiences from struggle to joy and wonder, we begin by contemplating our true nature, which is that infinite abundance of the divine. We are swimming in an infinite ocean of possibilities, right? We just need to see it and accept it, and then we can realize it in our lives. There's a fundamental spiritual principle. Abundance is the fundamental nature of the universe, right? And when we look at the floods, it's in the hurricanes, there's a lot of abundance, and that there's change, and there's sadness, and the form is always changing, but it's always there and big. And that spirit also, the E equals MC squared, everything is either in potential, kind of energy, or it's in form. And it goes back and forth both ways, right? And so this divine abundance also is not, it doesn't discriminate. It's available to anyone, anytime. We just have to call on it. It's like the light doesn't know what darkness is. Spirit has no concept of lack or limitation. It's the light. So anywhere the light goes, the darkness is gone. It's vanquished. And so we're about being the light too, right? The gifts are always given, and it's up to us to see it and receive it. In spiritual mind treatment, which we also call affirmative prayer, we begin by knowing that God is all there is, that there's nothing outside of God. And God is omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent. 3 big words. But I remember when I was first coming into the science of mind, I was in first year class, and also reading the book This Thing Called You. Ernest Holmes loved to talk about the omniscient, the omnipresent, and the omnipotent, right? And so when I started thinking about those words, remember at this point I was making that transition from seeing God as, this old man up in heaven, to seeing God as all around and even within me. But and so these words were kind of growing my understanding of God. But I went back to when I was a child. We were always told that you can't keep a secret from God because God knows everything you're thinking. God is everywhere you are. God can see you. And it was like, as a child, they say, oh, I better be good. I can't lie. I have to obey the rules and always tell the truth, always do the right thing. That's one way that our parents and teachers keep us in line. But, and also maybe help the adults keep from doing the wrong thing. This was a God of judgment, a fear of going to hell. You better be truthful. Right? But this is the omniscient part of God, right? And so I had that planted, but this was going from, let's get rid of the judgment part and just the omniscience, right? The wisdom of it all. And then God is everywhere present, omnipresent. There's no place where God is not. And that means God is always there to be our source, to be our light on the path, to be the wisdom, to be the answers that we're seeking. Because when you look at a problem, if you have a coin and you've got the problem on one side, all you have to do is flip it over, and there's the answer, right? So God is everywhere present. And then also God is all-powerful, omnipotent. There is no power outside of God. There is only God. There is not this struggle against good and evil. It's like the light and the darkness. Where the light is, the darkness vanquishes. And what we call evil is just a misuse of the power. It's someone that doesn't know that they're misusing the power. It's like the nuclear energy. Do you use it for creating energy to light our homes, or do we and to power Brenda's new electric car, or is it something that we use to blow up the world? And as Putin is threatening to do. So it's how we use it, whatever way. So so it's somehow, when I was contemplating God as omnipotent, omniscient, and everywhere present, thank you, it was expanding my consciousness of the power and the presence of God. Not only is God the source of all that is, God is the very life force that is within my own being and my heart of hearts. Right? As I contemplate God, my idea of how big God is keeps getting bigger and bigger. And the more I contemplate, the older I get, the bigger and bigger it gets. We have the James Webb Space Telescope is out there now. We've been getting some amazing pictures coming back from space, and it's a little bit different. They use infrared photography, which is we can't see with our eyes, but they can see that with the computer and the cameras that they have today and telescopes. And so what they do is they translate the color into something that we can visibly see. Now, right here, this little arrow that's pointing, if you could see it here, it's pointing to a star called Arendelle, which means morning star. And that star, one reason that it's red is because it is 28 million miles away. Now, the universe, according to the Big Bang Theory, it's only 14 million years away. So that's 2 times 14 is 28. How could that be? Well, it turns out that Arendelle is moving in one direction and we're moving in the other. So we've been moving apart for 28 or 14 million years. And then the other thing that happens is that because time and space continuum, Einstein's theory of gravity comes in here, when it travels that far, it warps the light. It changes the light. And so it also changes the frequency that we see it in. All right? So anyway, it's the one that's pointing to, it's, if you see one of these pictures, it's the faintest one in between these two stars. It's not, the reason it's not as bright as the other two stars that it appears to be between, it's because it's that much farther away. So when you think about that, that's how big the universe is. And it's even farther. It's infinite. All right? So that's pretty big. All right? Now also, form is temporary. All right? So, when we hold on to material things as our source, as our foundation, it's like somebody who builds their house on sifting sand. Everything is going to break down eventually. They on the internet, they always have these pictures of these beautiful mansions or castles from the past or whatever, and they slowly over time will deteriorate. They'll be covered with moss, and the animals, the little insects will come in and eat the wood, and there will be an earthquake that will shatter it. I mean, all these things, form is temporary. We may think that it's permanent. Even this table, when it's vibrating, there's more space in this table than there is solid stuff. Right? So when we experience our true nature, life in all of its fullness, we have that high consciousness of God as the source, and that is what doesn't change, the unchangeable. The form changes, so we shouldn't be so attached to the form. What we want to be attached to is the infinite source that is always there, always present. We can always rely on it. We are an inseparable part of that one life that is God. And so God is love. We are love. God is peace. We are peace. God is health and wholeness and joy. And we are health and wholeness and joy. These are the true qualities of who we are in consciousness. So Joel Goldsmith says, instead of trying to hold on to this form of body, we hold on to the truth of our own identity, and this body is maintained harmoniously. Right? Now, when we become so attached to any form as a necessity in our lives, right? I can't live without this. Probably you can, but we place our dependence, our happiness, and our joy on having these things in this way at this time. Take them away, we feel forsaken. But instead, we want to ground ourselves in that eternal power and presence of God as all of life and as us. In this morning's reading, Goldsmith lists all the apparent forms of wealth that people pray for: diamonds, pearls, silver, oil, vegetables, fish. I like that one. Fruit. I must have been a vegetarian, or what do you call it when you have fish too? But these are effects of supply, and not the supply itself. Right? Soul is the true creative facility. Goldsmith says, supply is spiritual and activity of consciousness. We use the human mind as an avenue of awareness, but we recognize the soul as the creative faculty. Right? And Wayne Dyer puts it more simply: abundance is not something we acquire, it's something we tune into. Right? It's always there. We just need to see it. It's not something where we are creating whatever it is in our lives, but we choose. It's like I've talked in the past about how abundance is like this fire hose of supply that's flowing, and we just choose where to direct it. But the actual source, the actual flow, is the divine flow. And so, if there's only one power, there's no power of lack or limitation, except we create it in our minds. And what appears to be two powers, good and evil, that's a misuse of the one power, because a house divided against itself cannot stand. Right? There's only good in the absence of good. And so our thoughts, we're not creating with our thought. And in science of mind, we always we send out the thought police to say it's really important what you're thinking. And then when we have something we don't like in our life, we say, I have to change my thinking and change my life. Well, that's true. But we also have to be compassionate with ourselves because it's like we're getting feedback that we went in the wrong way. It's like when you're driving and you make a wrong turn, you don't end up where you want to go. So what do? You turn around and you go back the other way, right? So it's just a change of direction. And so we need to change and remember that, if we're not getting that, we're not tuning into the truth of where we want to be. Now, the soul level, this is why it's so important to practice the presence and power, of God in our daily spiritual practice, to stay tuned in and align with who we truly are. Goldsmith, in his book, The Infinite Way, he says, seeking guidance from God will set up a sense of separation from God. It gives a sense of God and someone needing help, direction, and wisdom. Actually, you need to let God be your life. And then it lives, acts, performs, and is your very being. Now, this is a slight nuance that's really important. So if we have the God that's out there, and we have to always be asking, pleading with God for whatever it is that we need, then we have created that illusion of separation. And so God is within us, right? And so we want to, when we practice the presence, we are coming to know, not just in our mind, but in our soul, in our heart of hearts, at the very core of our being, that God is all there is. And that we are whole part and parcel God, right? And so we are looking to that God within us, to the essence of who we are for that divine guidance, right? And so it's like that coin. What side are you looking at, the problem or the answer? There's only one power in the universe, whether we call it God or Buddha, Krishna, Jehovah, Allah, the Christ consciousness, universal mind, the infinite invisible, or the I am that I am, right? In Deuteronomy, it says, the Lord our God is one Lord, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thine heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might, right? Now, Goldsmith explains this in Practicing the Presence. He says, to practice this principle, hour after hour, day in and day out for 1 month or 2 months, holding to God as the law of our being. God is our source of our good. God is the activity of our day, changes our entire experience. At first, this is all in the realm of mind, in our heads, right? But by constant practice, it leaves the realm of mind and it comes down into the heart, into our awareness, into the consciousness, and then it takes over and lives our experiences. It lives through us and as us, right? We realize who we really are. In November, we're going to be having a heart math session, and that's about aligning your head and your heart, and it's very powerful to come and bring them into coherence and live from that place. But in Science of Mind, we say that we become what we think about. And so if we think about all the things that are holding us back, we just, something happens and we get so torqued about it that we just can't think about anything else all day. We've wasted all of that time. In fact, we're manifesting more of what it is that we didn't like. And so we have to, all that resistance, and we get more obstacles to manifest. But if we contemplate the power and the presence of God, if we contemplate the light as all there is, as the one and only power and the truth of who we are, then it's like we're vanquishing the darkness. We're turning on the lights, not dimly, but at maximum brightness, It's like the sun, stepping out into the sunlight, on those days, it just warms your face, and, we put sunglasses on because it's too much. But that's who we are, that true light. And it's like if stepping out of Plato's cave, if you know that story. I'm not going to go, we don't have time to go to the whole story, but once you've come out into the light, you thought this was normal to be in the darkness, but when you come out into the light, you can't go back. You realize that, oh, this is the truth. This is what life is really like. And so you know that the life of God in all of its glory is the truth of who we are. So we're lifted out of our conditioned habitual beliefs and lack, limitation and struggle into that truth of flow, ease, grace, and plenty. It's not a struggle. It's not a battle between good and evil, not arguing or fighting with ourselves or the world or what have you. It's simply focusing on the light and letting divine grace provide everything that we need to express the magnificence of the divine, expressing itself as us. Eric Butterworth, in his book Spiritual Economics, says, when we establish ourselves in the consciousness of God, the whole universe moves to flow into us with its abundance of life and substance. You know, God is amazing, wondrous. And when at the our retreat last week, everyone said, you know, Penny, you're amazing. Yeah, and Patricia, you're amazing. And Bob, and everyone here, you are amazing. All right. And so this is the truth. And Johann Sebastian Bach, or Handel, actually, Handel's the one that wrote it, the Messiah. You know, there's a reason that this choral piece is loved so much, right? Whenever we hear it or sing it or play the music, we just can't help but be inspired. You know, it is just an amazing piece, and I'm sure that it was written from an altered state of mind of just, you know, being in that consciousness of God. And so people have to stand up because the joy, they can't contain it any longer, and they want to sing, and they sense that power and presence in the music and in the room and in their own hearts. And we're immersed in that infinite abundance of the divine, swimming in the infinite ocean, right? So we're letting go and letting the divine flow in us and through us and as us, the infinite invisible, express itself in all of its glory and magnificence, the abundance of love, peace, and joy, and all good things. This is our inheritance. This is the true nature of who we are and all of the universe, right? And so as the rest of October unfolds, we're going to be exploring the divine wealth of ideas and infinite potential possibilities. You know, but we start with this reliable and abundant source of our unlimited supply, the divine, the infinite invisible. And so how we allow Spirit to flow and manifest that natural infinite abundance in our lives, we'll be spending some more time on that in the future weeks. But today, remember, God is all there is. Let's take that to prayer. So as we go within to our heart of hearts, to that place at the very center of our being where that flame of Spirit burns gently, calmly, always there, waiting for us. And so we remember that it is the reminder that God is all there is. That this spiritual consciousness, this Christ consciousness, as we focus on that flame and let go of everything else, we remember that God is our source of us and of everything in the world, and it's all good. And so as we relax in this knowingness, in the omniscient and omnipotent and omnipresent part of God, character of God, we have nothing to fear. We lack for nothing. There are infinite ideas that know how to express what is next for us and the unfoldment of our lives, and the unfoldment of the infinite invisible into form. This is the truth of who we are. This is the truth of the nature of the universe and of our lives. We are the light coming into form. And so we let go and let God be that truth of our being. Everywhere we turn, where there has been darkness, where there has been holding back, where there seemed to have been darkness, that life just dissolves it and it is gone. And instead, there is this feeling of joy and abundance and peace and love that fills our lives in every wonderful way. We lack for nothing. We want for nothing. Just as the lilies in the field have been clothed, we are clothed and supported and loved. And so we let go of wanting to direct God into a little corner and saying, I only want this much. I only want it in this way. And we let go and let God bring something even greater into our awareness. And we are guided to know exactly what is ours to do and what is not ours to do. And all of the other people and the funding and the ideas and the time, whatever it is that needs to be to bring it into being our greater next to be, is unfolding right here and right now. And so we know this is the truth for ourselves, for our families, for our loved ones, whether they are here near us or someplace far away. And we know that it is for all the people on the East Coast that are dealing with the hurricane, or in Mexico as one approaches there, the Japan with their earthquake, wherever these things are going on, there is the power and presence of God to guide and protect and love. Perhaps some people in our family are dealing with mental health issues or their own financial abundance. And we calmly see God in the midst of them. We see that light guiding them with love and release them to God's loving arms. And it is good. And we know that the power, the infinite power for good in the universe is us. It is a power for good, and we can use it. And we let it be our life. We let it express itself in us, through us, and as us. And we see it everywhere. It's like the flowers are popping up everywhere in the spring. For it is always there, ready to burst forth. And for this we are grateful, to know that we're letting go of the world of effects and coming to this reliable, always there source within us. We are grounded, we are strong, we are happy, we are healthy, we prosper, because this is our true nature. Thank you, Father, Mother, God. And we release these words knowing